So the first story, US versus China, the AI race, DeepSeek versus ChatGPT. This is kind of wild. Before I go to this story, I think one of the comments in the first or the second episode, I think it was the second episode that I actually talked about DeepSeek, and I mentioned DeepSeek briefly. But I guess one of the comments was kind of controversial because I was saying like USA is the leader in the AI revolution. China is always the kind of a definite pessimistic, and that's why they are always in the conversation, but they're not the leader. They're just one of the competitors in the conversation because Americans are optimistics, and now under Trump's administration, they are definite optimistic. So they are optimistic, and they are optimistic with plan in the AI revolution, technology, and other aspects as well. But Chinese have been always pessimistic. Like they consider the situation. They actually think future is going to be dark unless the opposite happens. So we have to have plans. So there are definite pessimistics. That's why they are always in the conversation. And I said that, and one of the comments was kind of wild. And someone said Chinese always downplay their cards because they want to do the breakthroughs and they want to keep their projects secret and private so they can actually be ahead in a silent mode. And I was like, man, downplaying their cards. What a strategy. And I think it was a week after that DeepSeek came and shocked the world. The $1 trillion stock crash in the US market. Trump was saying it's a wake-up call for Americans, the technologists in Silicon Valley. And I was like, man, what an analysis. So I'm going to start with that here. DeepSeek was China's ChatGPT moment. And I'm going to agree with that. I think there is a video here that we're going to actually look at that actually says that actually explains the DeepSeek was China's ChatGPT moment. So Deepo, if you have the video, please pull that up. I think it's a video. I think it's 1 minute or something. Yeah, let's hear it.
Look at the last few years. How big a moment is DeepSeek and what they were able to do? Like, could you even call it China's ChatGPT moment?
It could be called that, and the reason is because they were able to basically release what's called a GPT-4 class model, which isn't exactly the frontier model that we're on here in Silicon Valley. It's maybe a half generation behind, but they were able to get to that based on the research papers and the models they put out with basically less than $10 million of spend. That's an extraordinarily efficient run to get to that class of model that we simply haven't seen anybody else do before. It also means that the team that DeepSeek has assembled is extraordinarily talented. The data that they have access to must be really, really good and really clean and really deep. And they've clearly done, based on the research papers they put out, they've done some really innovative things on the algorithmic side that is frankly like world leading in some ways.
Wow, so that was a great explanation, and I don't know who that is, but I think it's a news kind of platform, if I'm not wrong. So he actually talked about DeepSeek that they had a talented team, they had some breakthroughs that I'm going to actually explain, and DeepSeek R1, so an open source reasoning model that claimed to achieve performance to OpenAI's O1 model at a fraction of the cost with fewer GPUs. And if I want to compare these two companies, Tipo, if you can pull that picture of comparison of DeepSeek versus OpenAI. So as you can see, DeepSeek founded 2 years ago, and OpenAI founded 10 years ago, back in 2015, at the end of 2015. DeepSeek R1 costs is 0.14 per input tokens, which is significantly less than the one for OpenAI, which is $7.5. Wow. It dominates the AI tools for coding, complex problem solving. GPT is the O1 model and OpenAI model is kind of better at storytelling, copywriting, and data summarization. They reportedly, it's not official, so they reportedly used 2000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs. But OpenAI used like 100,000 GPUs, so it's 50 times more. They have the DeepSeek startup had the 200 employees, and the training cost was $6 million. The one for GPT was $100 million and more than 5,000 employees. So that was the comparison. We don't need the picture depot anymore, so you can pull that off. That was the comparison that is kind of significant. But there are some controversial parts here, okay? First of all, I'm going to go through some reactions. The first reaction was Sam Altman, who reacted to the DeepSeek model, and I think he said DeepSeek is one of the direct competitors in this space. So let's look at the real depot, if you can pull that Sam Altman reaction to DeepSeek R1. Yeah, that video would be great. Yep. Let's hear it.
These things are never surprising in the abstract. Like, we knew that they were going to be, at some point we would get more serious competitors and models that were very capable. But you don't know when you wake up any given morning that that's going to be the morning. It is not surprising at all that it happened. It's surprising it happened that day, I guess. They did some nice work. And I think there's also like some nice pieces of product work, like showing the chain of thought was clearly something people wanted. Massive availability in the free tier was clearly something people wanted. Research-wise, it's not a big update to us, although they did a few nice things there as well. Moore's law changed the world, and that was an increase in transistors per chip, doubling every 18 months. Yeah. Our observation in our field is that the price for a given level of intelligence, once it's achieved, falls by about 10x per year.
So 100x in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is a crazy thing. Mm-hmm. Like, Moore's law changed the world at a much, much gentler slope. And, in that sense, we should expect more things like DeepSeek, and we're going to do our best to keep pushing the price down too.
Wow. So that was wild. So he talked about Moore's law and how Moore's law affecting basically reducing the cost down significantly. So I want to talk about the cost of training, because training AI models requires massive amounts of computation measured in flops. Flops is a floating point operation per second. And quick flashback, when we talk about AGI, or artificial general intelligence, we mean how many flops we have to do to achieve AGI. So that's the kind of thinking process that we have to look at. There are different aspects in the cost of training. The first one is compute power, which is AI training runs on GPUs and TPUs, which process trillions of calculation per second. The second one is the energy consumption. The more efficient the chips, the less power they consume. The third one is hardware costs. As transistor density increases, chips become become cheaper to produce. So those are the three important costs of AI training: the compute power, the energy consumption, the hardware costs. Okay. So how Moore's law, according to Sam Altman, is actually lowering the AI training costs significantly. So first of all, the faster chips means less time is needed to train the AI model. So with more transistors per chips, GPUs can process data faster. A model that took like months or maybe years to train, now they can train it in weeks or even days. The cheaper the hardware, the lower the compute costs. Because as transistors shrink, chip manufacturers can produce more powerful chips for the same price or maybe cheaper. So this makes AI servers and GPUs more affordable for companies like OpenAI and startups like DeepSeek. The third one is the lower energy costs, which means more efficient AI training. The older chips used like more power to perform calculations. The newer chips with more transistors packed efficiently consume less electricity to achieve the same task. So this significantly reduces the cost of training, the training that is running in the massive AI data centers around the world. Um, so that was the kind of how Moore's law is practically lowering down the cost of AI training. And I think Sam Altman said something else as well, that they have been in the wrong side of the history regarding being open source, because DeepSeek R1, I think it was the first reasoning model that was completely open source. And I think that's why there's so much amounts of controversy around being open source or being for profit, or why actually OpenAI went from non-profit to capped profit and then for profit, and why Microsoft is actually pushing the AI to be for profit, and that's why they have like 49% ownership of OpenAI, the major shareholder in OpenAI. So I'm going to talk about those later. Bear with me. But for now, let's just talk about one more important thing about DeepSeek, that the breakthrough that they had regarding their interface, because interface is very important. Like DeepSeek has distinguished itself in the AI landscape through its innovative approach to user interface, enhancing accessibility and user management. So one of the key aspects in the kind of interface conversation regarding DeepSeek is the transparency in reasoning. Like DeepSeek interface uniquely displays this kind of transparency through this process. It's user friendly, it's open source. So that's why they had breakthroughs regarding the interface as well. I think there was one conversation around AI democratization and the fact that we have to prevent monopoly of the US, specifically Silicon Valley, in the AI revolution. And that's what DeepSeek did. Like, they democratized AI and they showed globally that all the countries have to actually join the AI revolution. I think after DeepSeek, there was an action summit in Paris, and India and Russia and France, everyone is actually trying to join the AI revolution. So DeepSeek release led to AI democratization and prevented the monopoly of the US, specifically Silicon Valley. And Dr. Victor Go is explaining this. So Deepo, if you have the video of Dr. Victor Go explaining this, please put that up. I think it's 90 seconds or something. Yeah, let's hear it.
What is the point of DeepSeek?
Well, first of all, I think the breakthrough by DeepSeek means AI is not American intelligence. It means AI should be artificial intelligence for mankind. It also means that there is not one single pathway in the development of AI, and no one has a monopoly of AI. And countries like China and many other countries all have a right to participate in AI and make their contribution to the development of AI. Now, DeepSeek is also very intelligent in itself, and it is really thinking deeply and seeking deeply.
Victor Gao, how will AI change the lives of ordinary Chinese citizens?
Well, from the Chinese perspective, AI is everywhere. We are already in the middle of this AI revolution, and AI revolution is truly a tsunami. It will change and shape and reshape everything we do as human beings, as a company, as an institution, as a government entity, as a culture, as a civilization. Therefore, AI is all embracive, and no one can stop it. And there is no monopoly of AI. No one should indulge in the fantasy that it can achieve a monopoly.
Wow. So yeah, um, this was wild. Like he talked about the monopoly. He mentioned AI is like a tsunami, and I kind of remembered about the topic that we discussed in the second episode of AGI with Arsha podcast. It was about Murachev's landscape. It's like an AI is like a tsunami, and they first started with the doing huge amounts of computation and doing like different math, coding, intelligent things, and then they are kind of going to uh the kind of peak of those mountains in the Murachev's landscape to achieve reasoning and the true intelligence and innovation and creativity as well. So yeah, I just had a flashback of that. So yeah, of course, I think DeepSeek release was kind of it was kind of powered the world globally to join the AI revolution, which is a great thing. I think competition makes a great sense, and competition will lead to us having a greater opportunity and having better models. So I think that's huge. I think there's a video from Perplexity's CEO Arvind Srinivas. He explained how they actually solve privacy issues regarding American data using China, and also how they removed censorship from Taiwan ownership and Chinese Communist Party, and they have implanted liberty and free speech. So before we watch this video from Perplexity CEO, we have to actually realize when people trying to use DeepSeek when it first came out, they asked about Taiwan, they asked about, I think it's President Xi, and it, it couldn't answer. Like it was a true sign of censorship, and that's bad. And Perplexity actually tried to solve this issue by making it censor free from the kind of conversation regarding Taiwan and Chinese Communist Party. So, Deepo, if you can pull that up, pull the video of Perplexity CEO. Let's hear it.
DeepSeek is a name that's used for multiple things. So it's the app, the model. The model is called DeepSeek R1. The app is called DeepSeek, and the R1 is a model that's like you interact with on the DeepSeek app. Except when you use that model on that app, you get censored outputs. And also that model is hosted in China. So anytime you use the DeepSeek app, your input or your user request on your chat goes to China, and you cannot control that. On the other hand, another company can download the DeepSeek R1 weights from the internet because it's open source. So you can download those weights and you can host it, as in you can bring it up on a server rack hosted in the US or Europe. And when you use the other app, like say Perplexity, and interact with the DeepSeek model on that app, none of your data goes to China. So hopefully you feel good about it. And number two, we removed the censorship in that model. So you can go and talk to this model about Taiwan. You can ask who owns Taiwan, or what are the debates about its origins or ownership, or give me 10 points that both praise and criticize the Chinese Communist Party or Tiananmen Square. You can ask all these incidents, and it's just gonna give you pretty uncensored answers, which the DeepSeek app will not, because that is an app that is run by a Chinese company and they have to comply to the rules set by the Chinese Communist Party. We can give you access to these models and the experience that is in line with the American ideals of free speech and liberty.
Right.
Wow, that's good. That's good, man. It kind of reminds me of the video when John Cena was apologizing in Chinese because he said Taiwan is not part of China, and that was wild. So a little history here for those who don't know why it's actually a controversial conversation around Taiwan and China Communist Party. So it goes back to 1949, after the Chinese Civil War. The Communist Party of China, which was called CPC, took control of mainland China, and China became independent regarding military, regarding economy, the government, and They were like Republic of China or ROC. Since then, there has been a tension and conversation for reunification. But how does it relate to the AI revolution and the context of technology? Taiwan is a home to TSMC, the world's leading semiconductor manufacturer, making a key interest for both China and US in the AI revolution. So what can happen? Peaceful reunification, maybe military invasion, global conflict, potentially World War III regarding the dominance of the semiconductors and AI chips, diplomatic or economic pressure from China. So here US is trying to be the diplomat. So they are trying to have a great relationship with Taiwan. At the same time, they have their relationship with China as well. So that's going to be wild. But competition between USA and China is not just hardware. It's also the urgent global battle for AI talents like researchers, AI experts, entrepreneurs, startup founders, according to Lux Capital co-founder Josh Wolf. So if you have the video of Josh Wolf talking about the urgent global battle for AI talent, Depot, pull that up, please. Yes, that video. Let's hear it.
I think the bigger thing is this human capital. We are at war for talent. We need a brain drain coming here. And let me give you 3 stats that shocked me to my core, and if viewers are listening. 50% of undergraduates in AI around the world are coming from China. They are producing 50% of the undergraduate researchers in AI. Number 2, 38% of American researchers are from China. 37% are Native American. So think about that. We're outnumbered in our own country. Now we want to get those people here and keep them here, but if they're going back to Chinese companies, it's a really bad thing. And number 3, the US used to be about 25% of international students that were coming here to our country. Today, it's only about 15%. So it underscores the need that we are in competition, not just for the hardware and the physical capital, not just for the financial capital, but for the human capital. And we need to do something. I think this is a real big wake-up call.
Wow. So I think maybe that's why Elon was tweeting about like we should actually make the legal legal immigration to the US easier and more accessible to people. So maybe that's why, because they have to look for talents all over the world, international students, AI researchers, startup founders, AI enthusiasts, Of course, it's a battle for AI talent as well. So that's kind of wild. So one of the controversial topics around DeepSeek was what is going on with DeepSeek? Like how they could achieve something in the GPT-4 class and the O1 reasoning power with fewer GPUs. Like they were like, what's going on here? Maybe they had more GPUs than we ever thought. But you may ask, like, if you haven't heard about this and you don't know about the context, you may ask, like, why? What's the problem with having more GPUs? Because there was a diffusion law, which actually I think was for Biden's administration. And they had restricted the exportation of AI chips and the tech chips outside of the US because they want to stay dominant, and that's one of their kind of political strategy to stay dominant. That's why they had restricted the exports of AI chips. So they couldn't have that much chips regarding this because of the restrictions in the China. But what was going on there? So here the Grok CEO Jonathan Ross is explaining they don't need to actually have the GPUs. They can rent the GPUs by the cloud providers. So let's hear his talk on renting GPUs. Let's hear it, Depot, please.
Why would they try and smuggle in GPUs when all they'd have to do is log into any cloud provider and rent GPUs? This is like the biggest gaping hole in the whole way that export control is done. You can literally log in, you can swipe credit card, whatever, and just like pay and get GPUs to use.
So export laws unnecessary then? Or inefficient?
they're good, but the problem is there's like it's like the Monadnock line. You just go around it. So you need to like seal it up a little more. There's a little bit of room left to go here. I'm not aware of where it would be an export issue. I do know that many people log into cloud providers and just use them from remote. One of the problems, so we actually block IP addresses from China. And I believe we might be unique in doing that. It's also a little bit fruitless because, someone could just like rent a server anywhere and then log into us from there, right? And then there's nothing we can check. So I don't know that IP addresses are really the right way to do it anyway. I think we need something more sophisticated. But I mean, it's a big Swiss cheese.
Wow. I didn't know that. Like, you can actually rent the GPUs for cloud providers. And when he talked about like bypassing the law and just going around the law, I remember the way that Iran is doing the same with US restrictions and regarding economy, or regarding imports, regarding the kind of nuclear weapons development as well. So that was kind of related, a different context matter, So, as you know, when the DeepSeek came out, there was a crash. There was a $1 trillion crash in the US stock market. And I think Nvidia stock plunged and they lost $600 billion market cap in one day, which was, I think, the worst in history. Why? Because people thought, wow, so we need fewer GPUs to train AI models. We don't need that much H100 GPUs. And that's why the stock crashed. And here, actually, I think it's Trump. It's Trump's reaction to DeepSeek. And I think he says it's going to be a wake-up call for everyone. We actually need to bring the cost down if we can. So let's hear it. Deepo, if you can pull the Trump's reaction to, is it Trump's reaction? I think we have the Trump's reaction. Oh, we don't have the Trump's reaction. Okay, that's all right. But I think, he said it's going to be a wake-up call for everyone. And this is going to be a while. So now I want to talk about DeepSeek innovation in AI model training. I actually watched a podcast. I think it was a 5-hour podcast, Lex Fridman. It was awesome. I learned a lot. DeepSeek innovation was in different parts. The first one was knowledge distillation. The second one was scaling laws and how DeepSeek overcame them. Then the third one was the amazing architecture, the MOE. Then the fourth one was advanced reinforcement learning technique, which was wild as well. So the first thing was distillation. What is distillation? So there is a technique which is called distillation, and is a technique where a large AI model called teacher trains a smaller AI model, which is called students, by transferring its knowledge. Instead of training a model from scratch, the student learns directly from the pre-trained teacher model's output. So, why it is important? Because it allows a smaller model to perform as well as the large model, with much lower computational cost. It reduces the time and the hardware requirements for AI companies like DeepSeek. So it enables the AI to be deployed on low-power devices like mobile phones as well. So this is wild. And people think that DeepSeek used OpenAI's data this way to actually train its own model by the parent model, the OpenAI model, to make a smaller model in the same performance like the way that they did with DeepSeek R1. So that's one of the assumptions that people think is going to be true. So now we come to scaling law and how DeepSeek overcome the scaling law. So what are scaling laws in AI? Scaling laws refer to a relationship between model size, dataset size, and compute power. And they suggest that the bigger the AI model, so the more parameters they have, the better it performs, but in exponentially increasing cost. The problem with the scaling law is training larger AI models becomes extremely expensive. Like GPT-4, I think it was more than $100 million to train. More parameters, more memory, more GPUs, more energy. So the cost is going to be wild. But how DeepSeek beats scaling law? So they, instead of just making like models bigger, they used mixture of architectures like MOE. What is mixture of architecture? The mixture of architecture is where the network is divided into multiple expert submodels and only a few experts are activated at a time for a given task and a prompt from a user. So when a user asks for something, only the specific parts that is needed in the model is going to be activated, preventing the computation, the unnecessary computation cost for the other parts that are irrelevant to that task. So it's going to be wild. Like the thing that they did with a mixture of architecture was amazing. Like besides distillation, that was kind of amazing as well. And then we come to the reinforcement learning technique that they actually use. So what is reinforcement learning? Is a technique where an AI learns through like trial and error by receiving rewards for good decisions. It comes from the kind of psychology and the behavior of a dog when you actually give him reward and snacks for doing something like jumping. So that's the kind of similar thing here with the training AI models with reinforcement learning. So how DeepSeek improved reinforcement learning techniques? So they had efficient training loops. So they reduced unnecessary training cycles, saving compute power, better rewards for models. They optimized, in other words, I have to say, they optimized the reinforcement learning technique. So they didn't need that much compute power. And like those were the things that people assume, and the AI researchers have came to the conclusion, like how DeepSeek could do that with fewer GPUs, as they claimed. We don't know. They may have more H100 GPUs that we think. But this is what scientists and AI researchers think regarding the scaling law, how DeepSeek beats that, the amazing mixture of architecture, optimizing reinforcement learning, and the technique of distillation to use OpenAI's data as a parent model to train the DeepSeek R1 as a student model in a short amount of time with lower computation costs. Of course, lower energy and lower GPU is needed as well. So that's what we think they did. I think Jonathan Ross is explaining like how DeepSeek is similar to Sputnik 2.0. Sputnik 2.0, for those who don't remember, was the second supercraft launched into orbit by the Soviet Union. I think it was November 1957. It was historically significant because for the first time, it was the first living creature into space, like a dog named Leica, that they shipped that living creature into space. Unfortunately, I think the Leica is dead by now, but anyway. So Deepo, if you have the video that Jonathan Ross is explaining that DeepSeek was kind of similar to Sputnik 2.0, please pull that up. I think it's 24 second, Deepo. Yeah, let's hear it.
Everyone's seen the news about DeepSeek today. I want to just start off by saying, is it as big a deal as everyone is making of it?
Yes, it's Sputnik. It is Sputnik 2.0. And even more so, you know that story about how NASA spent $1 million designing a pen that could write in space and the Russians brought a pencil? That just happened again. So it's a huge deal.
Of course, it's a huge deal, man. Um, so yeah. Then we have a video of David Sachs explaining the AI distillation and DeepSeek's being linked to being a thief of the data from OpenAI. So let's hear David Sachs' video depot regarding distillation. I think it's 70 seconds, man. Yeah, please pull that up, Depot.
Is there IP theft here? Did they steal some of what they were able to scale up here from us? And do we need to close the doors on what we're doing in terms of invention and technology?
Well, it's possible. There's a technique in AI called distillation, which you're going to hear a lot about, and it's when one model learns from another model. Effectively, what happens is that the student model asks the parent model a lot of questions, just like a human would learn. But AIs can do this, asking millions of questions, and they can essentially mimic the reasoning process that they learn from the parent model, and they can kind of suck the knowledge out of the parent model. And there's substantial evidence that what DeepSeek did here is they distilled the knowledge out of OpenAI's models. And I don't think OpenAI is very happy about this. And I think one of the things you're going to see over the next few months is are leading AI companies taking steps to try and prevent distillation. And so we'll see if the leading AI companies can prevent distillation by third-party companies. That would definitely slow down some of these copycat models.
Wow, so he just called the DeepSeek the copycat models. Yeah, probably they're going to prevent distillation, but still they have to be open source if we want competition. And we want like a true, transparent competition in markets for everyone. So let's see like in the next 2 months how they can actually prevent distillation and the data from being distilled by other AI companies. And you know why OpenAI is not happy about it? Because OpenAI is not making any money on like each token on API. Like I think they are making money on the monthly subscription plans, but I don't think they are making money on the tokens on their API. So maybe that's why they're not happy about, like, we're not making money and they're stealing our data as well, training their AI models, same performance in less time, less money has been spent by them, and less compute power, less energy. That's why maybe like that's the process and that's the confusion they have in the US side. So I think the next video we have here is from Anthropic CEO explaining that they may be smuggled, but not possible to compete with us. It's going to be a bearification. Either the China is going to be the leader, or it's going to be a parody in the next maybe 6 months. So let's hear it, Deepo. This Anthropic CEO, 70 seconds. Please pull that up. Yeah, let's hear it.
DeepSeek in particular has a higher quality than some of the other companies in China. Actually, we were aware of DeepSeek for quite a while, and they kind of identified it as more likely to succeed than some of the others, like Alibaba. So it's a particularly talented team. But the general dynamic that we've seen is, I think, to be expected. Particularly in the tens of thousands of chips, smuggling is very possible. I obviously can't speak for either the last administration or the current one. I think this is a bipartisan thing, but I think the purpose of the export controls is to prevent China and other adversaries from getting to the hundreds of thousands of chips, the millions of chips, because that's really hard to smuggle and that's really hard to replace with Huawei chips. So there's this bifurcation in front of us, and we can have a big lead, or as you're suggesting, one of these other routes, things can be parity, and those are two very different futures for the world.
Wow. So he is pro the restrictions of chips, the US chips. And he said, I think they're going to smuggle because it's hard to actually replace the H100 GPUs from NVIDIA by Huawei chips. So yeah, so he is definitely pro restrictions. Yeah. So the next one is that the next video we have is the fact that Scale AI CEO is trying to explain like the DeepSeek AI team had more H100 GPUs than people think. So they can't talk about it because it's against the law and it's against export control of the US. But they probably have number of higher GPUs than people think. So let's hear it. I think it's 30 seconds. Scale AI CEO. Let's hear it, Deepo. Please pull that up. Yeah.
The Chinese labs, they have more H100s than people think.
And these are the highest powered NVIDIA chips that they were not supposed to have.
Yes. My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that, I think they have more chips than other people expect, but also on a go-forward basis, they are going to be limited by the chip controls and the export controls that we have in place.
Yeah, they might have, actually. They might have. So the next one is, yes, this one is Trump calls this a wake-up call for the US tech. So it's 80 seconds. Let's hear Trump's reaction for the first time to DeepSeek. Let's hear it. Deepo, please pull it up.
Today and over the last couple of days, I've been reading about China and some of the companies in China, one in particular coming up with a faster method of AI.
That's good.
And much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money. I view that as a positive, as an asset. So I really think if it's fact and if it's true, and nobody really knows if it is, but I view that as a positive because you'll be doing that too. So you won't be spending as much and you'll get the same result, hopefully. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said you have the most brilliant scientists in the world in Seattle and various places. But Silicon Valley, they said, there's nobody like those people. This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas. We're always first. So I would say that's a positive. That could be very much a positive development. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and you'll come up with, hopefully, the same solution. Under the Trump administration, we're going to unleash our tech companies and we're going to dominate the future like never before.
We're going to dominate the future like never before. That's a strong, word from a man who's strong as well. So, Mark Anderson, one of the well-known VCs in Silicon Valley, calls R1 a Sputnik moment and an open source gift to the world. So he's pro open source. And again, there is a video. I think I saw this on Theo Von podcast. Scale AI CEO went to Theo Von podcast, and he talked about the potential war regarding microchips. Let's hear it, Deepo. I think it's 43 second. Theo Von, a Scale AI CEO video. Deepo, please pull out. Yeah.
One of the biggest companies in the world is this company called Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC. It's like $1 trillion company. That is where almost all of the high-end chips for AI, all of them are manufactured there. They have the most expensive machines in the world. They have machines that cost hundreds of millions of dollars in there. Wow. All these giant factories are in Taiwan, and that's where basically like 100% of all the advanced AI chips are made. But then the reason it's a hotbed is that the People's Republic of China, the PRC, has a sort of a reunification plan that they want to bring Taiwan back into their country and be back a part of China. It's kind of like it potentially, there's no war yet. There's a risk.
Still talking to your ex.
Yeah, exactly. There's a risk it becomes like Russia-Ukraine or, one of these really bad situations.
Oh my God. Theo Von is so funny, man. He's like Scale AI CEO. He's talking about it's going to be a war. It's a kind of important subject because TSMC has a lot of AI chips, and Theo One is like, yeah, it's like talking to your ex. That man is so good, so funny, man. I would love to meet Theo one day. So the next story, it's about Africa, the game changer in the US-China chip rivalry. So I think Africa has a lot of like resources, natural resources in their land. So they have metallic elements, which is vital for electronics and renewable energy and military tech. So maybe America and USA actually looking to use the Africa's resources for their chip manufacture. So that's another one. At the same time, Russia is trying to join the China in the AI revolution. Of course, it's going to be a wild move because at the same time, I think Europe is going to compete in the AI revolution as well. So there is an interview that I think Kai Fu did, and he talked about the parallel universes that USA and Chinese AI companies are currently operating at, and that those who can work with the AI solutions from both of these ecosystems will be at an advantage to those relying on just one. So it's like politics. Like when you hear CNN, you know it's left news, okay? And when you hear about from Fox, it's right news. So you have to hear from both sides so you can actually use the information that you have gotten from both sides, use your own common sense, and then decide who is actually going to be privileged in this conversation. Use your common sense, find the truth. So that's the approach, the right approach. You have to have the open mind and be flexible to actually hear both parties, okay? And I think it was, I think when I went to Yuval Noah Harari back in 2024 in London, he talked about like how you find the truth because we don't know what is true. Actually, he said, maybe there is no truth here. You know why? Because someone is going to be privileged in the conversation. So you have to actually change your question from what is true to who is going to be privileged in the conversation. So that's how basically Kai Fu here is explaining the parallel universes and the competition between USA and Chinese AI model. Deepo, please pull that video up of Kai Fu explaining that competition. Yeah, let's hear it.
So are China and the US headed on different paths here? Will they even be competitive in their respective AI markets, or will there be the China option for the world to engage with online AI and the US version? And then if that's the case, how the heck do you regulate this all if they're separate things?
Yeah, we're well beyond that, and we're in our parallel universe. This is not ideal. None of us like it, I think, but it is what it is. And given it's a parallel universe, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting American solutions that won't make it to China and interesting Chinese solution that won't make it to US. So as an entrepreneur or VC or just a curious mind, it would make sense to look at both worlds to see what's exciting in each one, because while you compete in your world, whether it's the American world or the Chinese world, if you have the advantage of actually having studied the other parallel universe, you will have superpowers in the work that you do. But we don't have any unrealistic expectation that US and Chinese AI companies will actually compete in the same country, unless it's in a small number of countries that are friendly with both countries.
Wow. It's maybe that's why we need open source models, because entrepreneurs from both countries here, like China and USA, can take advantage of the other model and try to invent something better, which is going to be good for the world if we actually direct the AI revolution in the right direction, to benefits all the humanity. Like that should be the goal of everyone. But you can't trust everyone, man. You know that, right? So that's wild. So I told you about the fact that Nvidia lost $600 billion in market cap in one day, which was wild. Because people thought, and the reactions, the kind of reactions the public had, including investors, was that DeepSeek release was a kind of paradigm perspective of post-training law. It was like a paradigm that we don't need that much computation power. But Jensen Huang is actually explaining, no, that's a wrong kind of way of thinking. And the right paradigm perspective of post-training law for LLMs, and the fact that actually DeepSeek proves we need more computation than before. So that's why we need more GPUs. So let's hear his opinion on people's reaction and the right paradigm. Deepo, please pull that up.
What happened with DeepSeek, the world's first reasoning model that's open sourced. And it is so incredibly exciting, the energy around the world as a result of R1 becoming open sourced. Incredible.
Why do people think this could be a bad thing? I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, first of all, I think from an investor perspective, there was a mental model that the world was pre-training, and then inference. And inference was you ask an AI question and it instantly gives you an answer, one-shot answer. I don't know whose fault it is, but obviously that paradigm is wrong. The paradigm is pre-training, because we want to have foundation. You need to have a basic level of foundational understanding of information in order to do the second part, which is post-training. So pre-training is going to continue to be rigorous. Lots of data, multimodal data, as you were mentioning. We're going to learn from, of course, language, but language and images, video, sound, and we're going to combine all of that together into our foundational knowledge. And that's going to keep on going. The second part of it, and this is the most important part actually of intelligence, is we call post-training. But this is where you learn to solve problems. You have foundational information. You understand how vocabulary works and syntax works and grammar works, and you understand how basic mathematics work. And so you take this foundational knowledge, you now have to apply it to solve problems.
Wow. He talked about this like pre-training, post-training, and scaling law back in CS 2025, and I think it was 6th to 11th of January 2025. So this is kind of interesting. Like people thought we need less computation, so we don't need that much GPUs and hardware. But now he's explaining, no, it's actually wrong. It's a wrong perspective. And we actually need, it's not just about pre-training and interface and user interface. It's about the post-training law for LLMs and the fact that actually it proves the opposite, that we need more computation. This is kind of logical, but at the same time, it comes out of the mouth of a man who is producing who has like a chip manufacturer, you know, and he has to like sell GPUs, and still they are making the most revenue from selling hardware and GPUs, and they are actually providing one of the backbones of AI training and the roadmap to basically AGI, which is the hardware. Another one is energy. That's why I'm going to talk about energy now. So there's a high demand on energy to train AI. And that's why we need data centers. That's why there has been a lot of investments on building data centers. But there's a debate on what kind of energy we have to use. Like we have to use nuclear, maybe we have to like use nuclear power plant. But why why people are trying to say we have to go nuclear? I think Microsoft and Google have been trying to build nuclear power plants and to use those like energy in their data centers to train AI models. So nuclear power has the ability to be stable, high output energy, low carbon source, minimal carbon emissions. So it's reliable for data centers, because to train an AI model, you have to like constantly load them with power and electricity. So that's why you need stable energy, which is nuclear. What are the challenges and considerations? The first one is safety and waste management, the high upfront costs, like there's a construction cost for nuclear power plants, which is substantial capital investment and lengthy like approval process regarding the rules and the government as well. Which Trump's administration actually can reduce that by decreasing bureaucracy and overregulation, which can hinder the innovation and make delays in this AI revolution. So the another one is the political and social acceptance. Like the nuclear power, like it faces like opposition in various parts of the world due to like historical accidents and environmental concerns, which could like impact its expansion as well. What are the alternative energy solutions? It's basically renewable energy like solar, wind, and hydro, but they are not stable. I think the best thing to do is having a portfolio, as Trump said, of nuclear, renewable, both a great, like a great portfolio with both energy types would be ideal at the moment, in my opinion. In a long run, of course, when you actually build the construction of power plants, yes, you can actually switch to whole nuclear. But for now, I think you have to keep your portfolio kind of wide and use various energy solutions for AI training. So that was the whole geopolitical aspect and the competition between USA and China, the two main players and the AI revolution. So the AI war is just getting started. Who do you think will dominate, China or the US? Drop your thoughts in the comments on this one. We're living through the biggest tech AI revolution in history. Don't just observe it, be part of it. Subscribe my YouTube channel. Also follow me on Instagram to stay ahead.